What's up, everybody? Beast Mode's back here with the first real content of the channel. I posted an intro, talked a little bit about what we're going to be doing here, and as promised, we're going to discuss the zombie decks that I have topped three tournaments with. The first one here is the deck that I topped RBT4 with. So the story is I actually played very little zombies before this event. As I mentioned before, my buddy JG is a zombie player. This is literally the only deck he plays. He's been playing zombies forever, and I was kind of sick of playing quick draw at the time, and I wanted to try something else. So, messaged him. I said, "Hey, do you mind if I use your deck?" He says, "Not at all." Sends me the list, and the morning of the tournament, we kind of worked through a couple of the card choices and really focused on the side deck. So this deck here is pretty old at this point. It's probably obsolete. I'm sure if you picked it up and switched a few cards around, you can definitely play and win with it. But we have to think this was it's at least three months old at this point. So and the decks that I'll show after this are better. We've worked on it and improved on the deck. So this here you can see one spicy card that I really like and test out frequently and try to get it back into the deck is the enemy controller here. Um, so the thought with this is, JG and I had talked about it that we can really make an extra explosive play with this card here. If you have a goblin zombie set on the field, opponent makes a big push and doesn't out your whole board, you can then enemy controller maybe sack a goblin zombie that was left on the board, or Book of Life, sack a goblin zombie, take control of a big monster, and make another OTK push. It really extends plays. It makes the deck more explosive. Actually, it kind of makes the deck more explosive in terms of leveling up with the or evening up with the Silchus deck, the hero deck, because that deck is extremely explosive and it gets it has the level 8 plays. So this enemy controller kind of helps compete with the more explosive decks of the format. As you can see, everything else here is pretty routine. The double tomato, double pyramid turtle was a standard at the time. I know the hero build still plays that ratio. JG and I have since changed the deck. We don't play two tomatoes anymore, and you'll see once I pull up the next deck. Triple Caius is really good in this deck. This deck here was really trying to play more control-based zombies. Set a recruiter, let the opponent attack, grab a goblin zombie, sack for a Caius, +1. It can OTK. That's just zombies in general. You can really put down 6k damage in a turn is very easy for the deck. 8,000 is a little bit more difficult. Doesn't happen all the time. You really need to have the Dark Arm to be able to do it. Unless you're playing the hero build, then 8k is much easier with the malicious synchro plays, but that comes with maybe a little less consistency if you're drawing double malicious or whatnot. But I'll focus more on talking about this deck here. So yes, the enemy controller here is really cool tech. It won me a couple games during my run, just being able to kind of OTK out of nowhere. The problem with it, and the reason why we're not playing it anymore, myself and JG, since we've been working on the deck, it's just too much Black Wings. After this tournament, RBT4, really Black Wings became the meta deck. I think there was like 30 something people playing that deck in this tournament out of close to 200 players. So it was well represented, and you don't want to ever see this card turn one against Blackwing, because it just playing Whirlwind, summoning Ashura, and getting a search, and you go -1 just playing that to stop an attack or something. It's just not good. Where Book of Moon is infinitely better against Blackwing, so we've definitely cut the enemy controller, but it was definitely fun for that run. One thing that's unique to this deck is that there's absolutely no Wing Blast. This is one of the few zombie decks that actually top without Wing Blast. I know the card is definitely good. It's just not my favorite card to play. It's one of those cards where when it works and when you set your opponent back a turn, bouncing a dead back row or whatever the case may be, it works. It's great. You just win the game. It's great against synchros, obviously, but Wing Blast is one of those cards where when you set it, if your opponent has an answer or MSTs or Icarus, you just don't want to be forced to play that card until you want to play the card. You know what I mean? So it's just situational. The card is definitely good. It's not my favorite card. So this tournament we really didn't play it here. The double dust actually helped against the amount of Blackwings I was playing against, so kind of balanced the whole enemy controller here. So This is the main deck here. Nothing crazy. Zombies are kind of the core is the core. But that tech enemy controller was fun. I'd love to be able to maybe incorporate in another deck in the future. I think there's a lot of stuff that can still be done with this card here. I think there is definitely some room in some of these decks to play this. Dust Tornado is one of those flex cards that you can swap out. You can put double Wing Blast, but the problem with this deck too, it doesn't really have the free discards that you want for it. Really, all you have is Mizuki Plague, whereas Silchus's deck has, I think he might play three Wing Blasts. He has the Malicious, he has the Heroes, and such. So the Malicious is definitely a way better discard if you have Wing Blast in the main deck. So the side deck here is really fun. This is kind of the first tournament where you really start seeing some of this Sirocco on the side. I'm sure that they've been sided before. I'm not saying that myself or JG pioneered this by any stretch of the imagination, but the morning of the tournament, JG, I remember talking like, well, what do you want a side deck for Black Wings? And I'm trying to think about it, and he had mentioned Sirocco. So we put the two Sirocco in, and this card actually put in some work. It won me a game. It does come with its flaws. Of course, it's a normal summon, so you have to decide between summoning a Sirocco or setting a turtle or setting a Goblin Zombie. But if this card sticks against even value, and they don't have a bottomless for it, it really can just kind of take over a game with it. So it was definitely good, and it's pretty much been a staple in my sideboard since this tournament. Vortex is also was in the sideboard for this tournament just because dragons were popular at the time, the turbo dragon deck, and you had an out for it. It works okay against frogs. It's not the greatest. You can kind of out the dupe block, but they just get a bunch of searches. Light Mirror, it's great against fairies, which was not very popular at the time, but Lightsworn as well. We side decked the other bottomless. After this tournament, double bottomless was main deck just because of the amount of black wings. So this card here, Kaiku, I'm just not the largest fan of. I think it's more of it's great in theory type card than actual play. Like you summon it, yeah, you summon it against value. Let's say you run over a Greffer, that's probably the most ideal situation, and you can remove a value in Sirocco. But I just don't think this card's that great. I don't side deck it anymore. These guys kind of come in and out of my sideboard here. They're good against zombies if you hit a goblin zombie. They're really great against the dragon turbo deck. Um, so, and sideboard for this deck, no magical android is the one card you'll see here. This guy is definitely more important than the android in my opinion. I kind of some tournaments wish I had android, other tournaments I don't. I would say for more like a locals or a Swiss tournament where you might have a chance of playing some of the rogue decks like Burn or something, you definitely want to have Android in the extra deck. But if you're playing in these premier tournaments and you might have a bye round one or something, where a lot of those decks typically get knocked out round one or two, you may not see them. I don't think you need the Android. Miss Worm is there because you don't want to get caught without having it, and you can like just steal a game with a return play and then make a Miss Worm and just bounce a bunch of synchros. But this guy is really important because of the fact that when you summon a Bryo with a Goblin Zombie and a Diva, let's say, or a Plague, it misses the chance to get priority, which is important sometimes. So sometimes you just need to drop a Brio to draw to bounce a bunch of synchros on the board, and in order to do that, to guarantee you get priority, you have to do it with like a turtle or you have to synchro with a turtle or a zombie master or something along those lines, so you don't miss timing. And sometimes you just want a card to eat a bottomless, and this is the guy that does that. Just eats a bottomless, and then you can just safely drop the Brio, because this card right here is the most important card for zombies. People that I notice when I watch them play and they drop this card down, this card should never hit the field until you're going to win the game, pretty much right here, because if you can't win the game with it and you lose this card here, zombies have an extremely difficult time being able to win the game via OTK or one turn win, whatever. Um, so this here should not be dropped. I often use this as bait, bottomless, mirror forces, and also you can make the diva play and like synchro up into a Stardust or Thought Ruler. So this is the deck for RBT4. I think I went undefeated in Swiss. I didn't go into X2 bracket, or it wasn't Swiss. It's just a double elimination tournament, and so I went like 6-0 if I remember correctly, and then played in top 8, and ended up losing to, I believe it was Right Coco, Seven, and Kirsch. I think both of them were in the finals. I think they were both playing like a Blackwing value variant. So this deck I don't play anymore. It's pretty old. More than welcome to try it. It's up on edisonformat.com. I believe you can download it, or Format Library. They have all the decks posted. So, and I can even share the download link in the description. All right, let's see here. Just got distracted for a second here. We're gonna go here. Oh, wrong one. 5. Let's see. So 5 is the last RBT of the season. Um, and let's see. This is the deck here. This main 21 monsters is pretty much decided. I don't think there's much I would change in this. JG and I have really refined this, and we got into the analytics with this deck. And yeah, so before this tournament, we took the old core and we kind of said, what can we do to make it better? And we looked at a lot of the decks that have the zombie decks specifically that I've topped before, and really got down to ratios and counted out how many decks topped with 2 Caius, how many decks topped with, you know, 1 Wing Blast versus 2 Wing Blast, and we kind of got down to the nitty gritty and got down to the analytics, and this is what we kind of came up with in terms of the core. So it's either you're playing triple Caius or you're not playing, you're playing 2 Caius. The Ill Blood here is really spicy because we drifted away from the double tomato, double turtle, and went with triple turtle because this card here, you never really want to tribute for it ever. You're never trying to get the whole normal summon effect off. It's just great against certain decks, specifically Glads. They attack into a turtle. You might be able to drop a Ill Blood if they don't have the Murmillo play. It beats over and ties. It beats over most Glads and ties with just a pumped up Laquari. It's really good against Hero Beat. They attack a turtle, drop 2100. You can run over an Alias. Um, so, but where it really shines is when it's late game and this guy's in your graveyard and you can like Mizuki out an Ill Blood and it's a really simplified game state. Maybe your opponent has 1 or 2 cards, you have 1 or 2 cards, and then you can normal summon and then get a monster out. I'll be honest with you, very rarely do I ever normal summon and use that effect. It's really there as allure food. And the reason why it's so good with allure is because of the return play. Gives you an instant level 8 with plague. Also, if it's in the graveyard, you ditch it with the Wing Blast, which I did end up putting in this for this tournament. You can Book of Life and make a level 8 play there, like a Dark End. So there's just a lot more versatility with this card. You get an instant monster born with Book of Life for a decent 6-star play. And like I said, it's this version here is a lot different than the hero version, obviously. So here again, no enemy controller. We decided that you just can't play with all the Black Wings, and we kind of cut the enemy controller for the second bottomless, which I said had to move from the sideboard. The Wing Blast here went in because of the fact that we're playing the Necro Gardener and we have the Ill Blood. So now we have 2 additional discards in this deck. So I felt that it would be worth playing it at this point. And again, I still feel that it's a good card. It just doesn't excite me that much, but because of the extra discards, I think it's necessary. The Necro Gardener was amazing. It's just a great card. You can set it up with a Wing Blast. You can Foolish it if you need to. Really can keep Ill Blood alive if you haven't have it on the board. You can negate an attack. Like I said, these 21 monsters here. So I topped with this tournament with this main core, and this is RBT5, and then Worlds with the exact same monster lineup. And a teammate of mine actually topped Pumpkin with the exact same main deck, essentially the same 21 monsters. So I don't think there's much changing of this. If you don't feel like you like the Ill Blood, maybe you can cut it for a third Caius. But this here I think is pretty optimized. In terms of the monster lineup. Now, the spell and trap, you can always tweak this however you see fit, depending on the metagame at the time. Maybe you need to have a second Book of Moon for whatever reason. You cut a bottomless or the Wing Blast if you feel it's necessary. So there's a little bit of room. There's a wiggle room with the 1 or 2 cards, but this is pretty much the main build and I wouldn't really play around too much specifically with the monster lineup. Side deck again, we got the double Sirocco. Just I feel like it's necessary at this point with all the Black Wings. We played double Vortex, double Smash for this tournament. I have since kind of cut the Vortex you'll see in the Worlds list because of just not as much Dragon Turbo running around, and I infinitely like Smashing Ground. It's just a way better card in my opinion, and you don't have to discard for it. Kind of accomplishes the same thing. If you're not seeing dragons, Smashing Ground is better every time. So you'll see in the Worlds list, it's a lot different than this in the sideboard, but we're always tweaking the sideboard before every tournament, and that's really the most important thing here. The main deck, you can sit here and play around with this card and that card and tech card this and tech that. It's really not going to change the overall deck so much, and you might wish you had two bottomless if you play four Blackwing that day, but maybe you only play one and you don't really miss the second bottomless. So a lot of people get caught up on the one ofs of this and that, and they're trying to tweak one or two cards in the main deck, but overall, really they should be focusing on the sideboard, right? Because the sideboard specific to that metagame for that day. So every tournament we go into, JG and I work on a sideboard and we switch it up depending on what we feel is going to be the metagame. So we felt going into this tournament that there might be a lot of dragons, and you can kind of get a feel for the metagame based on the Discord chat and what you see a lot of the top players talking about or playing. You might be able to view some of their games. So Double Dust in the sideboard's great. Double D Prison for the Blackwing. It's decent against Vayu. Of course, Glads. You can put these four cards in. Soul Release is interesting. It's kind of slow. I'm always iffy on this card, but it's a blowout card against some of the Hero Frog deck. You can just remove all the heroes. It's great against Lightsworn too. So this card kind of comes in and out of the sideboard. But again, Siroko's definitely were needed with all the Blackwing running around. So not much has changed, and we'll show you the world's top 8 deck, which is very similar to this. So as you can see here, same exact monster lineup, not touching this at all. I think the difference between this one here is a Dust Tornado. Let me just check real quick. So instead of Book of Moon, it looks like we cut the Book of Moon for a Dust. So this deck here is very much specific to the Worlds tournament because it was about 50 players invited, and a lot of people know what players are playing already. Most people probably knew that I was going to be playing zombies, and we had a good idea that Siltrus was probably going to be on zombies, and of course I don't think anybody thought that Pro Storm was going to be on fairies, who ended up winning the whole tournament, but he's an amazing player, so he can pretty much play anything and win. So for the most part, you kind of knew who was going to be on what, or thought you had an idea. So this side deck is really geared towards what I thought I was going to be playing in my bracket, or specific players, more or less. So kind of, as you can see here, we kind of thought maybe people weren't going to really play the whole Dragon Turbo deck, so we cut the Vortex completely. So we just kept the Smashing Grounds, which is just really good against most decks. Game 2, it's good against fairies. It's good against just generic removal. 1-for-1 it's never bad. Here we side deck the third Caius, and the thought behind this is I side deck, which I'll talk about in a specific video. The way I side deck is extremely different than 95% of the people playing the game, and most people are going to think I'm insane when I say this, but I will tell you that I side deck out most of the zombie core when I'm playing games 2 and 3. So that's the reason why this side deck might look like, why is Smashing Ground in there? Why do we care about a third Caius? But when you see the side deck video, which I'll be making very soon, and you see the cards that come out, you'll have a better idea, because I kind of turned this into a control aggro or beat down zombie deck, and my thought process is essentially I'm going to make my opponent's cards dead that they side deck in against me. So most people will never side like this because they don't feel comfortable doing it, but I will make a direct video and show you the cards I take out and put in against matchups. So again, double Sirocco, staple. The Caius was in for games 2 and 3 when I take out a lot of my zombie engine. I have a third Caius that goes in over the Illblood. Got to kind of play these guys. I had considered taking out Cyber Dragon for Worlds just because I didn't think anybody was going to be on any machine decks. So these were literally put back in like 2 minutes before because they're just really good against GB. They're okay against Blackwing if they don't have the oppression to kind of run over most of the Blackwing. So it's one of those hit or miss. If they have the oppression, it's bad, but if they don't, it's pretty good. So Release, we kept it in just in case. Lightsworn. Problem was I actually played a couple Lightsworn. I didn't have the light mirrors in the sideboard. I actually played Mumix in top 8 with Chrysius Worn, and I just didn't have enough in the sideboard to play against him. I just didn't think anybody was really going to be on Lightsworn. Lightsworn's one of those decks where you're either on fire with it and you can never lose. You mill everything and just win, or it's just not your day, and you don't have good mills, or you mill power cards and you just don't have them in your hand when you need them. And I just didn't think anybody was really going to kind of put their Worlds tournament on the line with the Lightsworn deck and kind of just roll the dice. But the Chrysius Worn deck is really different. It feels different than regular Lightsworn. It doesn't have the bricks with the wolf and stuff, but I didn't have enough in the sideboard for it, and I ended up losing third game. But pulling the rugs are just needed because there's Rognox specifically is just an amazing frog player. He's the best frog player in the world, and if I'm winning, I expected that I'd probably have to play him at some point. So definitely want to have stuff in the sideboard. Even in any tournament, frogs are always seen. So always got an extra dust there in case for royal oppressions and stuff. D prisons is just generally good. Glads if somebody was on that. And again, when I sideboard, I'm definitely putting in double D Prison, double Cyber Dragon, double Sirocco, and again I'll make a video dedicated towards that. So this is the zombie builds that I have topped with. I just wanted to discuss them really quick and some of the decisions that both myself and JG had made. Sorry if the sound quality is not the greatest. I'm using my headset here and just trying to get the whole flow of uploading videos down. So the next video I definitely plan on making is going to be more about side decking because I think that that is the most important part of Edison format really is really having an adequate sideboard for the metagame at that time or that tournament at the time. And trust me, there are times where I'm 100% wrong, and I think I'm going to play a million dragon decks, and I don't see one, and my side deck is just not right, and don't do that well that tournament. But side decking is very important, and people I think overlook it, and they're too focused on just switching out one card here, one card there. Oh, should I play dust? Should I play two dust? Really, this is where we got to be focused on. And like I said, 66% of your games are played sideboarded, and it's extremely important to have an adequate sideboard for that tournament. Now, that's why every tournament you see, every list you see, there's a different sideboard based on what I feel, after talking out with teammates, what we feel is going to be the most common decks played. So that's a little bit about the decks. If you have any specific questions, just message me or comment below. I have no problem answering questions. Next video, sideboard and the cards I take out, and definitely going to start throwing some gameplay up there too. So and maybe talk through some plays and why I make decisions. And again, I'm not the world's greatest player by any stretch of the imagination, so take what I say as a grain of salt. If you don't believe it, that's fine. But I have had some tournament success, so I think I have an understanding of how to play the game, at least fundamentally. So, and again, I'm going to try to set up some interviews with some of the pro players, especially I think in the future, definitely get some of those videos up. And so that's it for today. And please, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy, y'all.